How to improve your English listening skills. Picture this. You're watching your favorite English movie without subtitles, and suddenly you realize you're understanding every single word. The characters are speaking naturally, using slang and fast-paced dialogue, but instead of feeling lost, you're completely absorbed in the story. That moment of realization, I actually understand everything, is what we're working toward today. If you've ever felt frustrated because you can read English perfectly but struggle to understand when people actually speak it, you're not alone. Today, I'm going to share the exact system that has helped thousands of my students transform their listening skills from confused to confident. Welcome back to our English learning journey. I'm so excited you're here because listening skills are often the missing piece in most people's English learning puzzle. You might have excellent grammar, you might know thousands of words, but when someone speaks English naturally, with their accent, their speed, their casual expressions, suddenly everything feels foreign again. This frustration is especially common for our Indian and Asian English learners because the English we learn in textbooks sounds very different from the English people actually speak in real life. The psychology behind listening difficulties. Before we dive into the solutions, let's understand why English listening feels so challenging. Your brain is incredibly smart. It's constantly trying to make sense of sounds by comparing them to patterns it already knows. When you learned your native language, whether it's Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, Mandarin, or any other language, your brain created specific sound patterns and rhythms. English has completely different patterns, different stress, different intonation, and different rhythm. This is why you might understand every word when someone speaks slowly and clearly, but feel completely lost when they speak at natural speed. There's also something called the accent barrier. Most of us learned English from teachers who spoke with Indian or Asian accents, which is perfectly fine for learning grammar and vocabulary. But when we suddenly encounter American, British, Australian, or Canadian accents, our brains struggle to recognize the same words we know perfectly well. It's like knowing a song by heart, but hearing it performed by a completely different singer. The melody and rhythm throw you off, even though the lyrics are the same. The 5-level listening development system. I want to introduce you to what I call the 5-level listening development system. This approach takes you from struggling with basic conversations to understanding complex discussions, movies, and even fast-paced debates. Most students make the mistake of jumping straight to advanced content like news broadcasts or movies, but that's like trying to run a marathon before you can walk properly. Level 1 is what I call controlled listening. This is where you start with content specifically designed for English learners. Think of children's audiobooks, educational podcasts for learners, or YouTube videos made specifically for English students. The speakers talk slowly, use simple vocabulary, and pronounce words clearly. This isn't boring content. It's strategic practice that builds your foundation. Spend at least 2 weeks at this level, listening for 20 to 30 minutes daily. Your goal here isn't to understand every word, but to get comfortable with English rhythm and basic sentence patterns. Level 2 is structured content with visual support. This includes educational videos, documentaries with subtitles, and tutorial videos about topics you're interested in. The key here is that you have visual context helping you understand. If someone is cooking while explaining the recipe, the actions help you understand the words. If someone is demonstrating a dance move, the visual makes the instructions clearer. This level teaches your brain to use multiple clues, visual, contextual, and audio, to understand meaning. Level 3 is conversational English, where you start listening to real conversations between native speakers. Podcasts about everyday topics, casual YouTube vlogs, and interview shows work perfectly here. The speakers use natural speed and casual expressions, but they're still speaking clearly and professionally. This level introduces you to how English actually sounds in real-world situations, with interruptions, filler words like and natural pauses. Level 4 is cultural content, where you dive into movies, TV shows, stand-up comedy, and music. This is where English becomes fun and culturally rich. You'll encounter slang, regional accents, fast-paced dialogue, and cultural references. Don't worry about understanding everything. Focus on following the general story and catching familiar phrases. This level develops your ability to understand English in its natural, unfiltered form. Level 5 is professional and academic English, which includes news broadcasts, academic lectures, business meetings, and formal speeches. This is the highest level because it combines complex vocabulary, formal grammar structures, and specialized topics. Once you can comfortably understand level 4 content, you'll find level 5 much more manageable because you'll have developed strong listening intuition. The active listening technique. Now let's talk about how to actually practice listening, because simply putting on English content in the background won't improve your skills. You need what I call active listening, a focused, intentional approach that trains your brain to process English more efficiently. The first step is predictive listening. Before you start any audio content, take a moment to predict what you might hear. If you're watching a cooking video, think about cooking vocabulary you already know. If you're listening to a conversation about relationships, mentally prepare yourself for emotional vocabulary and relationship terms. This preparation activates the relevant vocabulary in your brain, making it easier to recognize these words when you hear them. During listening, practice selective focus. Don't try to understand every single word. That's impossible even for native speakers. Instead, focus on keywords and phrases that carry the main meaning. If someone says, "I was absolutely exhausted after the incredibly challenging workout session," you don't need to understand every word. Focus on exhausted, challenging, and workout. These 3 words give you the essential meaning. After listening, engage in reflection and reconstruction. Take a few minutes to think about what you heard. Try to summarize the main points in your own words, either by speaking aloud or writing brief notes. This process helps move information from short-term memory to long-term memory, improving your overall comprehension skills. The accent adaptation strategy. One of the biggest challenges for Indian and Asian English learners is adapting to different accents. American English sounds different from British English, which sounds different from Australian English, and all of these sound different from the Indian English accent you might be familiar with. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by this diversity, let's turn it into an advantage. Start with accent mapping, where you consciously expose yourself to one accent at a time. Choose an accent you find most appealing or most relevant to your goals. If you're planning to study in America, focus on American English. If you're interested in British culture, start with British English. Spend 2 weeks exclusively listening to content in that accent. Your brain will start recognizing the patterns and rhythms specific to that accent. Practice sound comparison by listening to the same content in different accents. Many YouTube channels create the same content with speakers from different countries. Compare how Americans say water versus how British people say it. Notice how Australians pronounce today compared to Canadians. This comparative approach helps you understand that these are just different ways of pronouncing the same language, not completely different languages. Develop accent flexibility by gradually mixing different accents in your listening practice. Once you're comfortable with one accent, start introducing others. This builds your ability to understand English regardless of who's speaking it. Remember, the goal isn't to speak with a perfect American or British accent. It's to understand English speakers from around the world. The emotional connection method. Here's something most English teachers never tell you. Emotions significantly impact your listening comprehension. When you're anxious or stressed about understanding English, your brain actually becomes less capable of processing new information. Conversely, when you're relaxed and emotionally engaged with content, your comprehension improves dramatically. Choose content that genuinely interests you, not just content that seems educational. If you love cooking, listen to cooking shows in English. If you're passionate about technology, find English tech podcasts. If you enjoy romance stories, watch English romantic comedies. When you're emotionally invested in content, you naturally pay more attention and work harder to understand because you genuinely want to know what happens next. Practice emotional vocabulary recognition by paying attention to how emotions are expressed in English. Notice the difference between "I'm sad" and "I'm devastated." Observe how voice tone changes when someone is excited versus when they're disappointed. English speakers convey a lot of meaning through intonation and emotional expression, not just through words. Create positive listening associations by celebrating small victories. When you understand a joke in English, take a moment to feel proud. When you catch a phrase you've been learning, acknowledge your progress. These positive emotions create strong neural pathways that make future learning easier and more enjoyable. The technology integration approach. Modern technology offers incredible tools for improving listening skills, but most people don't use them strategically. Let's explore how to leverage technology effectively for your listening development. Use speed control features available on most platforms. Start by listening to content at 75% speed until you can understand comfortably. Then gradually increase to normal speed and eventually to 1.25x speed. This technique trains your brain to process English at different speeds, making normal conversation feel easier. Leverage subtitle strategies intelligently. Don't rely on subtitles as a crutch, but use them as a learning tool. Start with English subtitles for the first viewing, then watch the same content again without subtitles. This helps you connect the written words you understand with their spoken pronunciation. Avoid native language subtitles as they prevent your brain from processing English directly. Create personal learning playlists using apps like Spotify or YouTube. Curate collections of English content at your current level, organized by topics you enjoy. Having easy access to appropriate content removes the excuse of not knowing what to listen to. Include a variety of content types, podcasts, songs, speeches, and conversations to keep your practice interesting and comprehensive. The social learning dimension. Learning listening skills in isolation is less effective than learning with others. Humans are social creatures. and our brains are wired to learn language through social interaction. Even if you don't have English-speaking friends nearby, you can create social learning opportunities. Join English listening communities online where people share their favorite content and discuss what they've learned. Platforms like Reddit, Discord, and Facebook have active communities of English learners who support each other's journey. When you discuss what you've heard with others, you reinforce your understanding and gain new perspectives on the content. Practice conversational listening through language exchange apps like HelloTalk or Tandem. These platforms connect you with native English speakers who want to learn your language. You can practice listening to real conversations while helping someone else learn your native language. This creates a supportive, mutually beneficial learning environment. Engage in group listening activities where you watch English movies or shows with friends who are also learning English. Pause periodically to discuss what you understood, share vocabulary you learned, and help each other with challenging parts. This social approach makes learning enjoyable and creates accountability. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Let me share the most common mistakes I see students make when trying to improve their listening skills, along with specific strategies to avoid them. The first major mistake is perfectionism paralysis. Many students feel they need to understand every single word to be successful, so they constantly pause, rewind, and look up words. This interrupts the natural flow of English and prevents you from developing listening fluency. Instead, embrace the 80% rule. If you understand the general meaning and main points, you're doing well. Native speakers don't catch every word in conversations either. Another common mistake is level mismatch. Students either choose content that's too easy and doesn't challenge them, or content that's too difficult and discourages them. The ideal content should be slightly above your current level, challenging enough to push you forward, but not so difficult that you feel completely lost. If you're understanding less than 60% of content, it's too difficult. If you're understanding more than 90%, it's too easy. The passive listening trap is another issue. Simply having English audio playing in the background while you do other activities won't significantly improve your skills. Your brain needs focused attention to develop new neural pathways. Dedicate specific time periods to active listening practice where you're fully concentrated on understanding the content. Daily practice structure and consistency. Consistency is more important than intensity when developing listening skills. Rather than marathon listening sessions once a week, short daily practice is far more effective. Here's a practical daily structure that fits into busy schedules while maximizing improvement. Start with a morning listening routine of just 10 to 15 minutes. Choose content that matches your energy level, something engaging but not too challenging first thing in the morning. This could be an English podcast about topics you enjoy or a YouTube video about your hobbies. The key is consistency, not perfection. Even on busy days, this short morning practice maintains your momentum. Incorporate commute learning if you travel to work or school. Instead of listening to music in your native language, use this time for English listening practice. Download podcasts or audiobooks that you can listen to during your commute. This transforms dead time into productive learning time without adding extra hours to your day. End your day with relaxed listening, content that's slightly easier than your morning practice. This could be English music, a casual conversation podcast, or a comedy show. Evening listening should be enjoyable and stress-free, helping you wind down while still maintaining English exposure. The key is creating a sustainable routine that becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. Start with just 15 minutes total per day and gradually increase as the habit becomes established. Remember, 15 minutes daily for a year equals over 90 hours of listening practice. That's enough to create significant improvement. Conclusion and call to action. Improving your English listening skills is a journey, not a destination. Every conversation you understand, every movie you follow without subtitles, and every podcast that makes you laugh is a victory worth celebrating. The techniques we've discussed today, the 5-level system, active listening, accent adaptation, emotional connection, technology integration, and social learning, work together to create a comprehensive approach to listening development. Remember that your brain is incredibly adaptable. The same way you learn to understand your native language as a child, you could train your brain to understand English naturally and effortlessly. The difference is that as an adult, you have the advantage of being able to use strategic, intentional practice methods that children don't have access to. Your listening skills will improve gradually, then suddenly. You might not notice day-to-day progress, but after a few weeks of consistent practice, you'll have moments of realization where you think, wait, I understood all of that. These breakthrough moments are incredibly motivating and signal that your brain is successfully rewiring itself to process English more efficiently. I want to hear about your listening journey. In the comments below, tell me which level of the 5-level system you're currently at and which type of content you're most excited to try. Are you ready to tackle level 2 documentaries? Or are you feeling brave enough to jump into level 4 comedy shows? Your engagement and progress stories inspire other learners and help me create better content for our community. If this video helped you understand how to approach listening skill development, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends who are also working on their English. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss new strategies and techniques. Remember, every small step you take today brings you closer to the confident English listener you're becoming. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and keep listening to the world in English.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.